You ever come home from a long trip and feel like the world shifted while you were gone? That's what happened to me the day I drove back to my cabin in the Blue Ridge foothills. 10 days deep in the woods, tagging tree growth, sleeping under tarps, no phone signal, no people, just peace. I pulled up the gravel drive, still smelling like pine sap, ready for a shower and a cold beer, when I spotted tire tracks near the lake. Clean ones. Too clean. Not mine. And fresh gravel had been laid where there used to be nothing but packed dirt. At first I thought the county might have done maintenance. Then I saw yellow tape flickering between two rebar poles. That's when my stomach twisted. I hiked down toward the lake half a mile through thick brush until I hit an open clearing and froze. There it was, a half-built foundation 12 by 20 feet with a sign that read, "Property of Whispering Bluffs, HOA." Now I don't live under an HOA. Never have, never will. My land's been in my family since the 30s, homesteaded, paid for, and passed down clean. So seeing that logo stamped across my soil felt like someone broke into my living room and hung up their own family portrait. I stood there staring at that concrete slab, trying to convince myself maybe I was mistaken, maybe the lines blurred somewhere. But when I pulled out my GPS overlay app, it confirmed what my gut already knew those people had built on my land. I went back to the cabin, pulled out my grandfather's old leather binder, deeds maps, surveys, and cross-checked everything with the county GIS. Every record screamed the same thing: it was mine. Not disputed, not shared. Mine. And yet, there it was, an HOA Guesthouse curing in the sun like a taunt. Next morning, I called their office. A perky voice answered, "Whispering Bluffs Homeowners Association, this is Courtney." I told her who I was and what I'd found. She cut me off halfway with that sugary tone HOAs must practice in mirrors. "Oh, Mr. Dalton, there's been some confusion about the zoning, but everything's under control." I said, "Confusion? You poured a foundation on my land." Long pause. Then she said, "Our maps indicate that area is reserved for future community development. Perhaps your family's paperwork is outdated." Outdated. I nearly laughed. I told her I had county-stamped maps from last year. She didn't budge. "If you believe a mistake has been made," she said, "you're welcome to file a formal dispute with the county. Until then, please don't interfere with ongoing improvements." Improvements. That word burned. By sunset, I hiked back down to confront whoever was behind this circus. When I reached the site, a handful of men in HOA polos were talking to a woman in pressed khakis and sunglasses. She spotted me and smirked like she'd been expecting a scene. "Mr. Dalton," she said, "so glad you came. I'm Courtney, HOA president. We were hoping to invite you to the groundbreaking ceremony." "Groundbreaking ceremony," I said. "You're lucky I don't bring the sheriff." I handed her my laminated map, bright red property lines clear as daylight. "This is my land. Yours stops across the water. You've got no business here." She barely glanced at it. "Our committee determined this parcel falls under community jurisdiction. You'll find it's in the best interest of all residents." I pointed through the trees. "Your residents live over there. This side belongs to me." Her smile thinned. "If you'd like to make this a legal matter, you're welcome to go through the proper channels. Until then, I'm going to ask you to leave this site. You're currently trespassing under HOA policy." That was it. I turned, walked away, and promised myself I'd be back with proof and a camera. 2 days later, I came back with notarized deeds, GPS overlays, and a GoPro strapped to my chest. I filmed every inch of that illegal foundation before calling out, "Courtney, we need to talk." She came out of a half-built frame like she owned the place. This time she had backup 2 board members and a man I didn't recognize. He was tall, broad military haircut, mirrored sunglasses, the kind of guy who likes to stand too close. I told her, "Here's the evidence. You're trespassing. Stop the work before this gets ugly." She took the papers like they were takeout menus, skimmed them and said, "Mr. Dalton, our records differ. You're welcome to contest it." That's when the man stepped forward. "Step away from my wife," he said. I blinked. "Your wife?" He squared up close enough that I could smell the aftershave. "You're trespassing on private property. You've been warned." "My property," I snapped, raising the map. "Touch me and you'll regret it." He didn't hesitate. One shove hard enough to knock the wind out of me. My phone hit the ground, still recording, and before I could react, he tackled me, knee in my ribs, fist hammering my jaw. I remember the sound of gravel, the weight on my chest, her voice saying, "That's enough, Greg," though she didn't sound like she meant it. Then darkness. When I woke up in the hospital, the nurse said I had a mild concussion and 2 cracked ribs. I didn't feel lucky. I felt humiliated. But that feeling didn't last long. It turned into rage. The moment I got home, I called my lawyer and oldest friend, Henry Lowe. He listened quiet at first, then said, "All right, Luke. Send me everything. Video documents, hospital reports. We're going after them." And we did. We built a fortress of proof, every survey, tax record, photo, timestamp. I set up drones and trail cameras to catch them in the act. Within days, the footage rolled in, HOA members tearing down my signs, hauling lumber. Even Courtney herself strolling around with a flashlight at midnight, clipboard in hand. At one point, her husband's voice was caught saying, "If that backwoods idiot shows up again, I'll finish the job." That clip alone was worth gold. Henry filed a full lawsuit, trespassing, assault, environmental damage, misuse of HOA funds. The sheriff's office picked up Greg 2 days later. You'd think that would slow them down. It didn't. We soon uncovered fake permits Courtney had filed under a made-up name, Melissa Klein, using a P.O. box 2 counties over. She'd even doctored the zoning map stretching HOA boundaries across the lake right onto my land. And the digital file, it was signed by her husband. When she was subpoenaed, she tried every excuse, claimed it was confusion, claimed emotional stress. But under oath, she cracked. Admitted she used HOA money without a vote, edited maps, filed fake permits. Her lawyer looked ready to sink into the floor. The local news got wind of it fast. Landowner assaulted in HOA land grab. My bruised face made the front page. Suddenly, everyone wanted to talk. Former HOA members' neighbors, even a retired treasurer who'd quit over ethical concerns. He handed Henry a flash drive with proof that Courtney had been funneling funds through her cousin's fake contracting business for years. By then, Whispering Bluffs wasn't a community, it was a scandal. Members called an emergency meeting. 50 people packed into their boathouse demanding answers. Courtney tried spinning the same speech. "We were improving the lakefront. This is all a smear campaign." But one woman stood up waving a printed copy of the forged map. "Then explain this," she yelled. The crowd turned. Voices rose. Someone shouted, "Vote to dissolve." And that was that. The state attorney general launched a formal investigation. Courtney was charged with fraud, forgery, and misuse of funds. Greg violated bail by threatening a witness and went right back behind bars. The court ordered the illegal guest house demolished. 2 weeks later, the county sent excavators, deputies standing by as the structure came down, beam by beam. I stood by the tree line, arms folded, watching that foundation crack apart, the one they said would be a community pavilion. Funny thing about concrete, it's strong until you pour it on stolen ground. When it was over, I got $400,000 in restitution. Most of it went into restoring the damage they'd done replanting the wetland, rebuilding my dock, bringing back what they'd killed. I didn't celebrate. I just sat by the lake one evening, beer in hand, watching the water catch the sunset. I found an old stone from the creek carved into it with my grandfather's chisel. Property of Luke Dalton. Here lies entitlement. Set it right where their cabana once stood. Now the only sounds out here are wind frogs and the occasional heron cutting across the lake. No hammers, no engines, no HOA. Funny thing, people online called me the man who beat the HOA. I don't see it like that. I didn't beat anyone. I just took back what was already mine. So tell me, if someone built on your land lied, hit you, and called it community improvement, what would you have done? Drop your thoughts below. I'm curious which side you'd stand on. Because out here, lines on a map aren't just ink, they're blood, history, and home.